Let's take a quiet moment together. Imagine you're sitting across from an old friend, perhaps with a warm cup of tea in hand. You've been through much in life, raised families, built homes, weathered storms both literal and emotional. And now, perhaps for the first time in years, you're thinking about something deeply personal. What does life really look like inside a nursing home? This isn't a conversation many like to have. It's often wrapped in whispers or sidestepped in family gatherings. But here, on Elder Insight, we believe in honesty wrapped in care, the kind that empowers, not frightens. You may be wondering this for yourself, or maybe for a spouse, a sibling, or even a lifelong friend. There's a common picture we're given about nursing homes: structured days, shared meals, medical help at hand. But beneath that picture, many silent struggles unfold. Struggles that don't always make it into brochures or family discussions. Struggles that deserve to be seen and understood. Take Irene, for instance. 79 years old, sharp-minded, lively spirit. After her husband passed, her daughter encouraged her to move into a nearby care facility. It was clean, well-staffed, and looked beautiful from the outside. But just a few weeks in, Irene began to feel something she hadn't felt in decades. Invisible. And then there's Paul, 83, once a high school teacher with a booming voice and endless jokes. He moved into a nursing home after a fall made it difficult to live alone. Surrounded by people, yes, but he says he's never felt lonelier. These aren't isolated stories. They're gentle echoes of a bigger truth. That's why today's conversation matters, not to cast fear, but to shine a soft light on the lesser-known parts of nursing home life, because knowing these truths helps you ask better questions. It gives you or your loved one the chance to prepare emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually for this next phase of life, should it come. So, if you're here because you're thinking ahead, or because you're already there and wondering if others feel the same, you're in the right place. We're going to gently walk through 6 silent struggles of nursing home life. The ones people don't always talk about, but that shape daily life in deep and meaningful ways. This is a space for understanding, not judgment. A space where your feelings and the feelings of those you care for are honored. Shall we begin? Hidden Truth. 1. The weight of emotional loneliness. If you ask most people what they fear about growing older, many won't mention illness or even death. What they'll whisper, sometimes with a trembling voice, is being alone. And in nursing homes, that kind of loneliness can quietly settle in, not always from a lack of people, but from a lack of connection. Alice is 82. She moved into a nursing home last year after her second hip surgery. Her son visits every Sunday like clockwork, and she appreciates that deeply. But during the week, she says, the hours stretch long. Her roommate keeps to herself. The staff is kind but busy. The dining hall is full of people, yet the silence at her table speaks louder than any conversation. I didn't expect to feel so separate, she told me once. It's not the building or the food, it's just that nobody really knows me here. This is emotional loneliness, the absence of deep, meaningful interaction. It's different from physical isolation. You can be surrounded by others and still feel profoundly unseen. Research supports this. Studies show that emotional loneliness is common in institutional care, and it can impact mental health more than many physical conditions. It's linked to depression, anxiety, and even cognitive decline. But it doesn't always look like sadness on the surface. Sometimes it looks like quiet compliance, like turning down social activities, or like saying, "I'm fine," when everything inside says otherwise. Why does this happen? Part of it is the loss of identity. In a home setting, your space reflects you, your books, your photos, your habits, your smells, your sounds. In a nursing home, especially one with shared rooms or tight rules, much of that is stripped away. You become bed 3 or room 204, and the person behind those labels, the storyteller, the gardener, the baker, the war veteran, begins to fade in the eyes of others. Then there's the pace of care. Staff often juggle multiple residents, tight schedules, and endless documentation. Even the most compassionate caregivers may have only a few minutes for each person. There's rarely time for a heart-to-heart, or to hear about the grandkids, or yesterday's dream. But here's the hopeful part, and I always want to leave space for that. Small changes can make a big difference. A family member calling every other day instead of weekly, a volunteer program that pairs residents with young listeners, a caregiver who learns that Paul used to teach literature and asks him about his favorite novel. Connection doesn't require hours, it requires presence. If you or a loved one is preparing for nursing home life, keep this in mind. Emotional loneliness isn't about being alone, it's about feeling forgotten in a sea of people. Knowing that gives you power to ask the right questions, to build routines that nurture identity, and to seek out care environments where people are seen as full human beings, not just patients. We all need to feel known, and we all deserve to feel seen. Hidden truth 2. Loss of autonomy and the subtle erosion of choice autonomy. It's a quiet kind of freedom, and one we often take for granted. It's the ability to choose when to wake up, what to wear, when to eat, even when to rest your eyes on a sunny afternoon. But for many older adults, moving into a nursing home quietly shifts this landscape, not all at once, but little by little. The small freedoms begin to slip away. Take Janet, for example. She's 76 and sharp as ever. Before moving into long-term care, she lived in her own apartment with a neighbor who helped her with groceries. She managed her medications herself, made her morning tea just the way she liked it, and read the newspaper every day at 9:30 a.m. sharp. Now, in the nursing home, her medication is given to her at set times. Her breakfast is served at 7:15 IEM, whether she's ready for it or not. And there's a set schedule for bathing. Hers falls on Tuesdays and Fridays. They're kind, she says, but I feel like a child again, waiting to be told when I can do what. This isn't just about personal preferences, it's about dignity. Autonomy gives us a sense of control, even in small ways, and when that control is consistently removed, people can begin to feel powerless, even invisible. According to research published in the Journal of Gerontological Nursing, loss of autonomy is one of the top emotional stressors reported by long-term care residents. It's often tied to feelings of helplessness, anxiety, and in some cases, a quicker decline in overall mental well-being. But here's what's important to understand. Many facilities aren't removing choice to be cruel. They're managing complex operations, dozens, sometimes hundreds of residents, many with serious health needs. Consistency and routine help prevent accidents, ensure medication compliance, and keep things running. Yet somewhere along the way, the person can get lost in the process. So how do we protect autonomy within these settings? Families can help by advocating for flexible routines. If your mum prefers to sleep in, ask if her meals can be brought later. If your dad wants to choose his own clothes, make sure his favorites are within easy reach. Simple steps, but deeply empowering. Facilities too are slowly shifting. Some adopt person-centered care models, where residents help shape their daily routines. It takes more coordination, but the results are powerful. Residents report higher satisfaction, less agitation, and even improved physical health. It's easy to dismiss small choices, but to someone who's lost so much already, a spouse, a home, independence, being able to decide when to brush their teeth or sip their tea can mean everything. We must remember, aging does not erase a person's right to choose. Hidden truth. 3. The quiet toll of over-medication and routine-based care. In the name of safety and stability, something troubling often creeps into nursing home life: an over-reliance on medication. Now, medication isn't the enemy. For many older adults, it plays a vital role in managing chronic conditions and ensuring quality of life. But in nursing homes where time is limited and behaviors must be managed swiftly, medication can sometimes become a shortcut, a way to quiet distress rather than understand it. Let's revisit Paul for a moment, the retired teacher with a big laugh and a sharper mind than most people have his age. After his move into a nursing facility, Paul began showing signs of restlessness. He paced the hallways. He asked questions, a lot of them. He sometimes grew frustrated when no one had time to listen. Within 2 weeks, he was placed on a sedative to help with anxiety, they said, but it dulled him. His voice softened, his humor dimmed. He napped through most of the day. And this isn't uncommon. In fact, a recent study by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services reported that nearly 1 in 5 nursing home residents are prescribed antipsychotics, many without a proper psychiatric diagnosis. These medications can be appropriate in specific cases, but when used as a tool to manage behaviors or to calm residents, the line between care and control becomes dangerously blurred. Why does this happen? Part of it goes back to routine-based care. Nursing homes operate on structured schedules, meals at set times, medication rounds, bathroom breaks, activity slots. This helps ensure safety and efficiency, especially for those who need a high level of physical assistance. But for residents who don't naturally fit the rhythm, the night owls, the wanderers, the storytellers, they often get labeled as difficult. And rather than adjust the system adjusts them. This isn't to blame caregivers. Most are doing the best they can with what they have. Tight staffing, heavy caseloads, and strict regulations. It's a system issue, not a heart issue. Of course, gaping. Still, families need to stay informed. Ask to review medications with the facility doctor. Understand what each prescription is for and whether non-drug interventions have been tried first. Behavioral symptoms, especially in dementia care, often have a cause: pain, boredom, unmet needs, confusion. Addressing the root can be more effective than masking the signs. Also, pay attention to sudden changes. If a loved one becomes unusually drowsy, withdrawn, or confused after starting a new medication, speak up. You have every right to question and to advocate. Janet once said, "I don't mind getting old. I just don't want to be turned into someone I'm not." Let's hold on to that, because every elder has a story, and that story deserves to be respected, not numbed. Hidden truth 4. The strain of staff shortages and rushed care. We often picture nursing homes as places of constant care, where trained professionals are always nearby, ready to help with patience and a kind smile. And while many caregivers do approach their work with genuine heart, there's a truth behind the scenes that affects residents more deeply than most realize. Staffing shortages. Alice, who we met earlier, told a story that stuck with me. One evening she pressed her call button because she needed help getting to the bathroom. She waited and waited. 25 minutes passed before someone came. The aide apologized, sincerely, but explained that she was covering for 2 other co-workers who were out sick. "I'm so sorry, Miss Alice. I've been running room to room all evening." That night, Alice wet the bed. Not because she was careless or confused, but because there simply wasn't anyone available in time. And for her, the embarrassment lingered longer than the wet sheets. This is happening all across the country. A 2023 study from the National Center for Health Statistics found that over 60% of nursing homes reported being understaffed at least once a week. That means fewer aides per shift, nurses juggling multiple tasks, and burnout spreading like a quiet fog through the halls. For residents, this has consequences. It can mean longer wait times for help, missed cues for pain or discomfort, less one-on-one time, bathing routines that feel rushed, meals that arrive late, medications that may be delayed, and emotionally it sends a subtle message. You're just one of many. Your needs must wait. No elder deserves to feel like a burden, but when staff are stretched too thin, even the most loving caregivers can't provide the time and presence each resident truly needs. Let's not forget the staff either. Many CNAs and nurses working in long-term care do so out of deep compassion, but they're often overworked, underpaid, and underappreciated. This creates high turnover, which, in turn, affects consistency of care. Paul once said, "Just when I start to trust someone, they get transferred or quit." That constant change wears on people, especially those who thrive on familiar faces and routines. So, what can be done? Families can ask about staff-to-resident ratios when visiting potential homes. They can also visit at different times, mornings, evenings, weekends, to see how staff engage during busy hours. Residents who are able can be encouraged to speak up if care feels rushed, and loved ones should never hesitate to respectfully raise concerns. You're not complaining. There are also broader efforts underway. Some states are working to improve training, pay, and retention for long-term care workers. It's slow, but change is happening. And in the meantime, a little understanding goes a long way. A thank you note, a kind word to a CNA, recognizing the hard work they do. These gestures help strengthen the bond between staff and residents, even when the system itself is strained. Because behind every bedpan and every pill cup is a human being, both giving and receiving care, and both deserve to be treated with dignity. Hidden Truth 5. The grief that doesn't always look like grief. Grief is something we often associate with funerals, with loss that's clear and visible, the passing of a loved one, the closing of a chapter. But in nursing homes, grief takes on a quieter shape. It walks the hallways without a name, carried silently in the hearts of residents, and most people don't even recognize it. Janet once confided, "I thought I was just tired, but I realized I was grieving. Not just my husband, but my old life." This is what psychologists call ambiguous loss, the kind of grief that comes from losing something intangible, not a person, but a way of life, a role, a rhythm, a sense of belonging. For older adults in nursing homes, these losses pile up. The loss of their home, where every object held a memory. The loss of spontaneous visits from neighbors. The loss of their garden, their kitchen, their favorite chair by the window. Even the loss of being called by a nickname, something only a dear friend or sibling used to say. And unlike more visible forms of grief, this kind often goes unacknowledged. There's no ceremony for it, no cards, no casseroles. Instead, it shows up as silence, as sudden tears, as irritability or withdrawal, sometimes even as confusion or anger, especially for those living with dementia. It's easy to misread these as behavioral problems, but more often than not, they're signs of deep emotional pain. Grief isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just the pause between words when someone talks about their past. Sometimes it's looking out the window longer than usual, remembering a life that felt more whole. So, what can we do? First, we can name it. Simply recognizing that grief exists, even in a place meant for care, is powerful. When we give it a name, we give it space to be felt. Families can support this by encouraging conversations about the past. Bring photo albums. Ask about favorite recipes, old routines, meaningful objects. These aren't just nostalgia trips, they're acts of restoration. They help remind the person of who they are and what they carry with them still. Facilities can also create spaces for remembrance. Memory boards, journaling groups, quiet rooms for reflection, even a simple bench in the garden where residents can sit and think. We should never underestimate the healing power of being heard, and most importantly, we must remember that grief isn't a problem to be fixed. It's a part of love, a part of life, and older adults have earned the right to grieve in their own time and in their own way. Now, as we come to the end of this reflection, I want to say this. If you or a loved one is navigating nursing home life, you are not alone. These hidden truths don't mean there's no hope. Quite the opposite. Awareness is the first step toward change. Whether you're a family member, a caregiver, or someone considering this path for yourself, I invite you to see beyond the surface, to ask questions, to hold space, to advocate, and above all, to stay connected to yourself, to your loved ones, and to what makes life meaningful. At Elder Insight, we believe that Aging should not be about fading away. It should be about continuing to live with purpose, dignity, and compassion. If this video spoke to you, please consider subscribing and sharing it with someone who might need to hear these words today. And in the comments, I'd love to hear your stories. What truths have you witnessed or experienced? Let's keep this conversation gentle, honest, and kind, because every elder deserves to be seen, heard, and honored.